Hey y'all, I was on a friend's podcast yesterday and she asked me a question that gave me pause. And here's what the question was. Is it possible to heal burnout? And here's what I said. Yes, it is possible to heal burnout, but burnout happened for a reason. It was a sign that something needed to shift, something needed to change. And we talked about that in the last episode. So if you didn't catch that, go back and listen to it. So, yes, you can heal burnout, but it can also happen again because life is life and we're going to experience things that need to change. You're not just going to, get in your lane, start driving and never make any turns, never hit any roadblocks or obstacles. I mean, you're going just like with marriage. I talk about marriage all the time because it is hard. Parenting is hard. Like these aren't, you don't just get to get in the easy lane, hit cruise control, and keep driving. So, if you have not experienced burnout, that's wonderful, but it's also something that you need to be really aware of. And you need to have tools in your toolbox. So, that is the whole reason I started this podcast, because when I went through it the first time, I didn't feel like I knew what to do. And it just felt so huge and insurmountable. I mean, I really thought I was going to have to quit medicine for good. And I talked to a lot of PAs who are in that completely overwhelmed stage and they cannot think of answers. They can't think of possible solutions. So they're just like, I just burn the house down. I'm just going to quit. I can't do this. I need to do something completely different. And that's not the case. You can, today we're talking about little tiny micro changes. So sometimes we zoom out and we talk about big picture, like shifting your perspective. And sometimes we talk about zooming in and like doing these itty bitty little things that are very doable, but they add up. So you've probably heard the metaphor of the ship. So these giant ships, I just put a deposit down on a cruise, which cruises aren't really our thing, but the kids love them and they were having a good deal. So whatever, it's for a year from now. But these giant cruise ships cannot turn on a dime. But if they make like a 1 degree turn, and every hour, maybe they make like a little teeny tiny turn, then by the time it's daylight, they have completely changed course. A friend of ours did semester at sea when he was in college, and that's where you spend your entire semester aboard a cruise ship with other college students. How cool is that? And they visited all these countries. And he said while he was on the ship, a guy fell overboard, like a drunk college kid fell off the boat, or maybe he jumped. I don't even know. And so they had to call in the helicopters. I don't even know what country they were in, but the boat could not easily turn around. So this took a while. And they did find the kid because it was a calm night and apparently it was easy to see him and they rescued him. But meanwhile, they had accrued hundreds of thousands of dollars in costs to rescue him because even like turning a ship around is expensive. So anyway, it is possible. You just have to do these teeny tiny little changes, but you can be rescued from burnout. All right, so what are some of these? Well, the first one is serving rather than fixing. So this came up yesterday. I was in a master coach training, and the topic was, are we a rescuer or a coach when it comes to helping our clients? Because it's really easy to want to jump in and rescue somebody. And the same thing is true in medicine, y'all. It feels so good to fix somebody. Like I love seeing a problem. Oh, you have seborrheic dermatitis. Well, I can fix that. Or you have cystic acne. I can fix that. It's so easy to want to fix somebody rather than have this two-way street of serving. So serving is different because you're working with the patient. It's like you're co-creating their health. So practically speaking, what does this look like in my clinic? Okay, so it has changed over time. When I first graduated, I thought I had to be all buttoned up and very professional and never let on that I had any weaknesses or doubt or uncertainty. But now, after practicing for 22 years, I have conversations with the patient and I tell them what I'm thinking. I will say, okay, these are the things that I'm thinking, and we could treat this way. We could start with this. This other treatment's going to knock out both conditions, but we may never know exactly which one you had. Or I'll say we could do a biopsy. I don't know what your insurance is like. That could be several $100s. It's more of like we both decide. That may even feel overwhelming if you're a pretty new graduate. So here's another easy tip. And I learned this from my supervising physician. Sit on a stool for, it can be 20 seconds, but the patient feels so much better when you get on their level. And it does something between the two of you. I mean, it really does help connect you in a way that is different than you standing above the patient. Now, I'm short, so I don't really stand above the patient, but it's a difference there, and they can feel it. The other thing that I do is, and I do this with clients too, but especially with patients, I believe in them. I believe that they can get better, and I believe that they have what it takes inside of them to get better. So with a client, it's more like, I know that you can um, identify what it is that needs to change. I know you have the strength to change it. Once I teach you the tools, I know you can do it. And I'll be there beside you, but I'm not gonna fix you. I'm not gonna work harder than you're working on your problem. And with a patient, here's what it looks like. Hey, here's the treatment. I suspect you are going to be much better when I see you for follow up, because it's really important that you do this cream every night or that you follow these instructions. And if you are much better when you get your reminder phone call, you can cancel, because usually this problem resolves blah, blah, blah. And so by planting the seeds in their brain that, hey, I can get better. I will get better. She's giving me what it takes, the medicine or stop using like Bath and Body Works stuff and your rash will go away. So I give them my advice, the tools, and then I say, how does this sound? How does that sound? What do you think about that? And just that sort of collaboration with the patient also seems to make a difference. Not saying I have it all figured out, but these little 1 degree micro changes can make a huge difference in your day. Taking a deep breath, like before you go in the room, because you never know what other room you just came out of. So taking a breath, like, did you just do that with me? So take a deep breath, and then you walk in the room, and it's like you've hit the reset button. Just a mini little micro reset. It's not a huge reset. You didn't just go out for a margarita or anything, but you just took a deep breath. And then look them in the eye and ask, like, how are you doing lately? Like, what's going on with you? And sometimes you get I had a lady who said, like, I just lost my daughter last week. Like, you get these really real answers. It's not just, I'm fine. I'm fine. How are you? And the same thing when they ask you, how are you doing? I mean, I don't unload and say, well, we got in this argument this morning. Let me tell you. But I do try to give them snippets of like what really is going on. We have a 16-year-old driver now. Like, yeah, he got in a fender bender, or yeah, my daughter's taking hip hop, and I don't know. Just give them little tidbits of information so they feel like they kind of know you and you have full access to their medical records. So maybe it's good that they sort of feel like they know you. If you are not loving your career and your job right now, like, you're going to have to make some changes, because if you don't make changes, it's not going to change. And changes can be so freaking hard. Our brains balk at change. They're like, no, no, no. Change means you could die. Like, that's what our brains think. So by doing these little tiny changes, it will ease your brain into it. All right, the other thing I do is gratitude. So you would never go on a trip. Most of us don't go anywhere without access to some kind of battery charger. Like maybe even in your car, you have a battery charger. A cell phone charger. You may have one at work. I travel with one. I usually travel with two just in case one of them doesn't work. I had to loan a charger to a lady at the tire place today because her phone was dead. So just like you charge your cell phone and you always make sure you have something with you to recharge it, do the same thing with yourself. So what recharges your battery? And then take that with you. So for me, gratitude, that's easy to take with me. So when I have had a sucky day, I make myself, and I do this because I know that my present self is not doing so good. So I sort of take on a persona of, okay, Hope, you got to do this. I sort of coach myself. What are you grateful for? Three things. And it may be completely dumb things like I made it through two green lights in a row, or I got that parking spot at the front of the building, or my last patient canceled. Yay! It may be silly stuff, but when you practice gratitude, it teaches your subconscious brain what you want more of in life. And if you write it down, when you write it down, it makes you experience those endorphins to a higher degree than when you actually experience that thing. So even we were walking the dog the other day, and I stopped and picked up a shiny penny off the ground. And my husband's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I found a penny." And you practice gratitude for these little things. I believe that if the universe knows that you appreciate what is put in front of you, or God knows that you appreciate what's put in front of you, I think you will come across more of that type of thing. So yeah, every day I try to focus on small wins that make me feel good. And I try to pay attention to what makes me feel bad and do less of that if I can. Um, Today, like what made me feel good today was going for physical therapy. My hip's been bothering me. So even though like I had an appointment, I wasn't going to not show up, but I kind of gave myself a pat on the back, like, yeah, you did that for you. Good job. I also remembered to soak beans overnight. So I kind of tell myself, good job, Hope. You soak. This sounds so silly. Does anybody else do this, or is it just me? But anyway, yeah, I gave myself another pat on the back. Yay, you remembered to soak the beans. And I do this to myself because I know that this is what recharges my battery. Maybe the thing that recharges your battery is connecting with people. This is like my husband. Quality time is his love language. And so he will get on the phone and he can talk and talk, and he's just like bouncing around, and while he's talking and he's laughing. And I mean, that's what refills his tank, that charges his battery. When my son was probably in middle school, he said, "My social battery is drained. I need to go to my room." And he knows that about himself. Like he needs alone time. For my daughter, like she has a lot of things that will fill up her tank or charge her battery. Like she will turn on music and start dancing. She's just yeah, really active, social. So figure out what it is and make sure you have it with you, because you're going to have these days where you're like, I cannot keep doing this. That this is connected to the last one, but what are you focusing on? So this is another micro change that you can make. So start noticing what you're focused on. What are your thoughts? And if you're focused on how bad things are, again, it sends signals to your subconscious brain that, hey, this is what she's looking for. Let's show her more of this. Just try it. It works with whatever you're dealing with, whether it's your relationships or your job. But at times when I have been really surly or resentful or whatever about my job, you can watch it. It spirals down. And I'll see this with PAs that I coach. It's not that you need to be all Pollyanna and pretend like everything is good, but if you are constantly focused on the bad, you aren't going to be able to see the good. So where your attention goes, your energy goes. And this is going to shift how you behave because your thoughts determine how you behave or act. And it will affect how you feel in your body. So if you've ever had like a negative interaction, speaking of the tire place, so this morning it was kind of an odd interaction, but anyway, one of the guys was just who's kind of like, I'm a manager. It's going to be another 30 minutes. And I said, oh, I've got a physical therapy appointment to get to. They told me it would only be 30 minutes and it had already been an hour. And he said, well, ma'am, what I'm telling you is it's been an hour and it's going to be another 30 minutes. And I just said, okay, thank you. And I found myself sitting there afterwards and I was thinking, I should have said this or I should say this and I should blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. I am choosing these thoughts. Like this is going to alter how I feel in my body because I could already feel my chest kind of like getting tight um and this is going to affect how I am when I start podcasting later today, when I try to sit down and write. So you have to be really aware of this. I mean, I still didn't go over and give him a hug or anything, but I paid attention to my thoughts and I shifted it to, I'm really glad I'm getting this tire taken care of today. I am really grateful they were able to squeeze me in, and I'm grateful we can afford a new tire and I do not have to deal with this after today. So pay attention to what is inside your head. Um, we have had a couple of people we know pass away in the last month, and it really does shift your perspective from all the little things. So this is an example of zooming out. So sometimes it takes zooming out of something to help you see how your thoughts have been lately. And then you can zoom back in and choose to make tiny little changes in those thoughts. I was taking my son to school yesterday and I was annoyed because he was not being cooperative with taking out the trash when I asked him to, but then he wanted me to drop everything and take him to school. My most creative time is in the mornings. And so I was giving up my creative time to drive him to school. And I snapped at him about something and he said, Mom, you didn't have to take me to school. He said, I asked you to, but you didn't have to. And he was 100% right. So that brings us to number 4, have to versus choose to. So this made a big difference in my life when I read a book years ago and it asked you to write down a list of all the things you had to do. And maybe it even put the spin on it of like things that you dread. So I have to, bathe the kids tonight. This was when they were little. I have to make sure I have the diaper bag packed. I have to do this. Even now, I do this with patients. Like when they say, well, you work somebody in, this patient came late or this patient didn't have an appointment, will you see them? I shift it to, I choose to. I may not say it out loud, but in my brain, I say I choose to. And so my son was right. Like I chose to take him to school. Nobody forced me into my car. Like they did not shove me into my car, buckle my seatbelt, and tape my foot to the gas pedal. Like I chose to. And so whatever it is that's going on in your life, you are choosing to stay in that situation. Now, I'm trying to think of the difference between clean pain and dirty pain. So clean pain is where you've just experienced something and you are hurting and it is legitimate and you don't need to change. You need to go through it, or the only way through it is through it. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a situation where you don't like it. You don't like it, but nobody is forcing you to do it. So if you can shift it from I have to or I need to and shift that to I choose to, you may find yourself arguing about that, but it is almost always true that you can choose to do something different. Yes, it's going to be hard, but you can make a choice. All right, so I want to hear from y'all. What kind of like micro wins do you have? What kind of micro changes have you found helpful with your burnout? You can reach me at my website, coachhopecook.com. See y'all later.